Alrighty then, we are back to record another pre-race prediction, this time around for the Emilia Romagna Premio Grand Torneo made in Italy, whatever, sponsor Pirelli GP. Yeah, that name is way too ridiculously long, and absolutely no one is going to call it anything other than the Imola Grand Prix. But yeah, we're back to do our pre-race predictions. So let's get into it. We're going to try and keep it short and simple as we always do. And because I know I do have a tendency to be wrong, although to a degree. But let's see what my algorithms came up with this week around. So for qualifying down, out, and out in Q1, I've got Logan Sargent down at the bottom. No surprise there with Zhou Guanyu barely above him. Pierre Gasly has managed to get himself out of the bottom of my algorithm finally, but not that much higher. Still a little bit better, but he is climbing. But for now, I can't really put him above 18. Valtteri Bottas just in front of him. He was having a string of good results, but seems to have been on the decline. And kind of same goes for Alex Albon, who just isn't really getting the most out of that Williams car right now. I don't think they necessarily have a bad car right now. I think he could be competing for an outside shot at points. He should be in the position that Hulkenberg is in right now, but he's not. He's just not getting that performance, so I couldn't really put him there any higher than this. Next group out, I got Magnussen, Ocon, Ricciardo, Stroll, and Tsunoda. Magnussen, I think he's going to have himself... He's been having a string of very disappointing results, and until he has anything otherwise, it's kind of hard to imagine him getting much better. I think Haas do have a good car. I think they've got a very good car, just not the drivers to go along with it. And with that, I'm putting him in P15 for the second race in a row. P14 for Esteban Ocon. He is absolutely getting the most out of that car right now. To be fair, he got a little bit of luck in the last race, but you know what? Luck happens. You still got to be the driver to make that luck work for you. He's doing that. And in P13, I put Daniel Ricciardo. I think they have been improving the RB squad. I think they've got a car that's probably the 6th or 7th best for this track. Not enough really to get themselves serious considerations for points, but an outside chance, maybe if something crazy happens. Lance Stroll, honestly, I kind of put Aston Martin kind of around that same level as the RB team right now. It's just that Fernando always seems to be getting the most out of that car on a very regular basis outside of that one qualifying session at Miami. But outside of that, yeah, no, Fernando's just doing good, so I can see him getting into the top 10. But Lance Stroll being outside the top 10, I don't think that'll surprise anyone. Yuki, he's done very good outside of China. China was absolutely awful for him, but he had a very good bounce back performance in Miami. And he's probably hoping for more of the same, probably hoping to do a bit better than P11, but I think P11 would be very, very respectable for him. And then we've got our top 10 of qualifying. Yeah, we'll start at the top and move down. Verstappen, Perez. The algorithms are still pointing to the Red Bulls being at the front. I don't think anyone will be too shocked by that. And I got Norris in P3. Since China, I don't even really remember Japan at this point. But China was a fantastic weekend for him. Miami was an amazing weekend for him. And he seems to be tracking on the right path right now as like a potential championship driver. Maybe not a championship car quite yet, but I don't think a podium is out of the realms of possibilities for him. Charles Leclerc, I don't think Ferrari have the car for this track, plain and simple. Based off of the raw data from qualifying at Miami, I think Ferrari might actually have one of the worst cars for Imola at the least. But yeah, so I'm probably dead wrong on that, but I still think the Ferrari drivers are just top-notch, and Charles is going to get the most out of that car. I put him in P4 for qualifying on a one-lap pace. Piastri right behind him, just simply because I think McLaren have a top-tier car for this track. Granted, we haven't seen the upgrades put to work, so I can make estimates, but I don't have the data to really back anything up to put upgrades such as Ferrari allegedly have into place. So Piastri in P5, and I've even put the two Mercedes above the Ferraris. Well, not necessarily above the Ferraris because I do have Leclerc in P4 for qualifying, just because his one lap pace is amazing. Then I've got Russell and Hamilton. They've been side by side pretty much the entire time in my algorithm. That hasn't changed, but they have moved up a little bit for this weekend. I think Mercedes actually have a decent car for this track. PA, I've put Carlos Sainz. Yeah, out of the top 4 teams, I just think Ferrari have the worst car, and he hasn't been quite as consistent as he was at the beginning of the season. Alonso, he's absolutely just getting the most out of that car. Will manage to get himself into the top 10 like he normally does. And then in P10, I've got Nico Hulkenberg. Once again, similar to Miami, I think they've got a car that is very, very good for this track. It's just they don't really have the drivers to get the most out of it. I don't think he's a bad driver. I just think he's a mid-level driver. He's not getting the most out of it, like such as drivers like Alonso or the Ferrari drivers are, or like heck, even Ocon. I would put Ocon above Hulkenberg in a second, but Alpines just don't have the car to do that. And yeah, so that kind of predicts my that kind of completes my qualifying order. And then for the race order, where's my mouse? Let's just do that. Uh-oh. There we go. I'm having some connection issues right now, but it seems to be going right now. So for my race predictions, not too many changes like I don't really have. I still need to kind of work on my algorithm a little bit to allow for a little bit more chaos. But chaos isn't how math works. So, yeah. I think Piastri will manage to get himself in front of Leclerc and climb up into a P4 spot. His race pace was fantastic, and Oscar is in need of a good result right now. He's not had the luck going for him in many of the results this year. It's about time he's had some good luck going his way, and I think that will finally come to him in Imola. George Russell, similar to Piastri, well, not necessarily that he's had bad luck. I just think Mercedes have a very decent car for this track, and I don't think the Ferraris have a good car, and that's why I put Leclerc dropping back. And funny enough, while I put Leclerc dropping back, I actually put Sainz to climb above Hamilton. I simply think Sainz has maybe the best racecraft in the entire field. I say that the race week after he took a penalty for causing a collision with Lando. No, with Lando, with Oscar. But yeah, that one was a little bit of a rough one, and Oscar did have a mistake that kind of led to it to a degree. But overall, I just think Sainz is one of the best wheel-to-wheel drivers in the field right now. I think he'll manage to claw himself in front of Hamilton. Hamilton, yeah, that's technically losing a spot for him. I just don't think he's going to have that same amazing result like he did at Miami. Week to week, he just doesn't have that drive in him anymore, in my opinion. I'm not saying he's washed by any means. Don't get me wrong. He's still one of the greatest of all time drivers. But I just don't think he has that edge in him that made him a championship. I don't think he's really trying too hard this season. Granted, he'll probably have to have a couple of those results in a row, and then that Miami effect will come out. That'll happen at probably Canada or Austria or something like that. And yeah, Fernando Alonso continual to get the most of the car, and Hulkenberg will just not get the most out of the car, but do enough to score a point. Lance Stroll, I think he will climb in front of Tsunoda. I think big portion of that is simply because probably analytically, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. I probably have Aston Martin with a better car. I bet that's probably the difference made there. And Tsunoda and Ricciardo keeping their orders side by side. Ocon, I think, will manage to still hold on to his good performance. Kevin will still continue to disappoint, and most of these drivers are just going to hold their position. I've just got Sargent and Zhou swapping positions. Lately, whenever Sargent isn't crashing, his race pace has actually been fairly good. And while Zhou's wasn't necessarily bad in the last race, I just don't think that the Sauber team have quite as competitive as a car as they'd like. I think Williams have a better car, and I think that will get Sargent in front of Zhou. So that completes my race predictions. Not too many swaps. And with that, we kind of go next into my race week prediction awards. So, driver of the day, I predicted to be Oscar Piastri. I don't really have too much of a reason to predict that outside of the fact that I think he's finally going to have a little bit of good luck that goes his way. Worst driver of the day will be Zhou Guanyu. I'm putting him down in P20. I don't think that Sauber car is good. I don't think he's having a good season. Driver that's going to be over-delivering, in my opinion, this weekend is actually Charles Leclerc. As much as you could probably look at this result as almost a disappointing weekend for them, in my opinion, they have a car that is not suited at all for this track, at least pre-upgrades. We don't really know what's going to happen with those upgrades, but I think they have a car that's basically not worthy of the points. So for him to qualify in P4, in my opinion, and compete for, what is it, like P6 or something like that, I put him? Where did I put him? P6. I was right on that. To compete for a P6 position in a car that I do not rate highly this weekend, I think is a very, very good result for him. That's technically over-delivering. And the driver that I have under-delivering, in my opinion, once again, is Kevin Magnussen. I think they have got a car that could definitely be a lot more competitive, but right now my algorithm is pointing to him finishing well outside of the points and barely out of Q1. So I think that's a very, very, very disappointing result. So what do you think of my opinions? Who would you put higher? Who would you put lower? Where am I way off track? Let me know. Leave a comment. Leave a like. Follow me on Twitch. I've got a battle going into the final race of the season where I've got Liam Lawson and Lando Norris tied on points going into Abu Dhabi. Probably going to be streaming that on Sunday or Monday evening. I think it's going to be a good one. I hope you people tune in. Take care. Have a good one.